Hello, beautiful people. Title of this one is What and Who Are the Perps? Perpetrators. The perpetrators of gang stalking. Who would want this job? A perpetrator is anyone who has been trained to harass, maim, mob, or kill a targeted individual, either by direct or covert means, including electronical, biological, or accidental means as well. Career perps make a good living dealing in misery to hapless individuals. Perps usually don't know the victim personally, but they are supplied enough information from their handlers and local and sometimes even federal agencies to allow for a well-oiled campaign of gang stalking and harassment towards the targeted individual. How can a perp be identified? Mostly by their actions. If perps are doing their job, they will reveal themselves. They do this a number of ways. Number 1, irrational hatred. Hatred of the target for no apparent or explainable reason. When pressed as to why they hate the target, they usually give a really irrational or illogical reason. Like, I don't like your luggage, or something like that. They obviously are not going to tell the target the real reason because this person is quite literally being paid to hate the target. It is that particular perp's job to hate the target. That is how they get their said compensation. This is often inconsequential, unless the perp has mutual friends with the target. The ultimate goal is to destroy the target's relationships and isolate the target from all friends, lovers, and family members. This is often successful in most cases because it is carried out slowly and very methodically. And I might add that they do a year of intel on you before they do this, so they know exactly who to approach, what to say, when they go overt on you, when they switch from a covert to an overt approach on you. So they know exactly what buttons to push. I've talked about this. Perps pretend to be going about their business and doing ordinary things. However, careful observation of said perps will reveal a different agenda. Perps follow the target into places of business and spend most of their time crowding the target's personal space. Often they don't even buy anything or transact anything at that said business. Perps follow the target out the door as they leave. Observation sometimes reveals they circle the block and come back into the establishment because that establishment is their territory to surveil for that day. So they have different territories, and they're quite literally just passing the baton as you go about your day as a targeted individual. They're just passing the baton to each other. Each person has a mapped out area, and you're one of many targets in the harassment queue. You're one of many. You're not the only one. A loner perp has been in a vile business for so long, the less human they become. This is especially true of those who have made this their lifelong career. Career perps are required to do evil things to targets every day. And without feeling remorse, more importantly. This is a job requirement. This inevitably results in a cold, void, emotionless exterior lacking in compassion with no empathy for any human beings. The second way they show themselves is by hand signals. Perps use hand signals to communicate with each other, their handlers, and to point out where the target is and what they are doing. They often will stroke their chin or go like this, which means heads up, the target is in view, he's approaching. Thirdly, perps are always unnecessarily rude to targets. Perps will consistently display rude behavior directed towards targets, often during a street theater scenario. And what is street theater? It's they're basically scripted scenarios that the United States government sits down and collaborates with one another, to see how they're going to get at you, invoke a response from you. So they might set up some elaborate scenario in a business, out in public, on the road, etc. And their job is to, be involved in that and just basically throw unnecessary rudeness towards you to get an emotional response from you, is what they want. This is a daily occurrence. Any restaurant, retail establishment, post office, doctor's office, or other place has its own corral of assigned perps to do the dirty work. Perps will crowd in line at cash registers and usually have a credit or debit card that doesn't work, a price that needs to be checked, or they engage the cashier in endless conversation. The result of this is a lot of wasted time intended to annoy the targeted individual. Who are the perpetrators? The people that apply for the job are often people that can't find a job elsewhere. They just don't have what it takes to succeed on their own. Perps don't have to be smart. Anyone can be a perp and can make easy money harassing others. They need to follow orders and never admit the truth, though. Those are requirements. This type of perp does not usually advance, but will continue to have steady employment for as long as the public, not victims of gang stalking, consider this harassment nothing but paranoid delusions reported by a few nut jobs with tinfoil hats. Perps who are recruited for the job sell their soul when they join this vast network of evil. Rich people, homeless people, middle class, and vagabonds alike are all recruited. Addicts, mentally disabled, alcoholics, young, old, geniuses, morons, people of any profession or religious faith are recruited. Anyone desiring a place in this dark madness may have one. The most pathetic and disappointing of all, however, are the pretended Christians who participate. There are quite a few of them that join in the conspiracy, who have been also tricked into joining. I have experienced harassment in churches. These Christians attend more perp meetings than church services, however. These frauds go about their days serving the dark side instead of doing what God would want them to do, which is peace and kindness to everybody on earth. Convinced they are God's chosen and have been given authority to harass and do horrible things to targets and ultimately decide if they will live or die. These perps mean well, I suppose, but will continue to do evil until they truly find God. The next group are the sadomasochistic types who get off on dealing misery. Many are adrenaline junkies, and the more they participate in this evil, the more they need to get their fix. It is like the ultimate high and power trip to them. These losers have found perpdom to be the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. How else can anyone commit trespass, burglary, slander, vandalism, terrorism, drugging, rape, abduction, and even murder without being called to task? The power-hungry perps enjoy inflicting pain on the target, and they thrive off of their fear. These perps definitely have lifelong careers in perpdom and will continue to climb the ladder to be part of the management team, also known as handlers. Increasing members of targets have indicated or implied that their disgruntled ex-husbands or girlfriends began targeting them or placed them in the program for breaking up with them. Usually the harassment is done by a group of perps and not the actual disgruntled ex. But in my case, however, the girl I believe who is responsible for my targeting joined in with semi-trucks trying to run me off the snowy interstate during a blizzard in Castle Rock, Colorado. People are often duped into participating in perpdom. How is this done? A number of ways. Number one being lies. The newly recruited perp is told that the target is a drug dealer, terrorist, homosexual, socialist, communist, Jew, Muslim, etc. It's easy to find out the newly recruited perp's hot buttons, and given the endless technical and federal military-type surveillance they use on targeted individuals, they're even easier to find. These buttons are pushed in order to motivate them to participate in things that normally would be against their moral beliefs. The information about the target may not be given directly and is often inferred. Even so, this will work on most people on a subliminal level until finality in the perp's mind. The target to them is trash and therefore does not deserve to live. Perps are brainwashed to believe that the end justifies the means. In their minds, they're a cleansing force ridding of society's undesirables. Perps are often coerced or threatened or even blackmailed into participating. Usually said threats are not direct and often implied. Perps are also known to infiltrate the workplace and sabotage targets' jobs and careers, often by blacklisting targets for future employment. This ensures that the target, no matter their qualifications or credentials, do not have an income and are pushed to force homelessness. Lastly, perps involved in criminal activities are threatened into participating. These perps may not want to participate, but are threatened with investigation or indictment. Oftentimes, they start out as informants and continue perpdom to expunge their record. Of course, these perps will never be free. If anyone tries to leave this evil network, they will be targeted themselves, or they will have an accident or die of natural causes. The last group that is recruited are the broken, targeted individuals who just aren't mentally strong enough to put up with their daily harassment. In their minds, it's easier to join evil than to fight against it. But they're dead wrong. By participating and turning coat, this evil grows stronger and kills even more innocent people the more who participate. The targets who gave up and turned perps themselves are truly the most lowly, despicable pieces of garbage on this planet. They have experienced the most horrible, dehumanizing acts of terrorism imaginable, and then they turn around and do the same unthinkable things to fellow targeted individuals. My message to perps is this: if you think you're 007, you're not. Your handlers don't give a flying fuck about you. That's why they make you sign non-disclosure agreements and waivers. If you want adrenaline, go base jumping, or better yet, jump off a fucking cliff. You are the real homeland domestic terrorists, not us. Thank you for your time.
This report I received today is a monumental document in more ways than one. But it is a very, very important piece of America's history, and it will shape America's future in ways that will make us a more honorable, more successful, and more ethical country. What this committee learned, I would like to review today with a little more detail than Dr. Faden said, because I think it must be engraved on our national memory. Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. Informed consent means your doctor tells you the risk of the treatment you are about to undergo. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment, and that was wrong. So today, on behalf of another generation of American leaders and another generation of American citizens, the United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments, to their families, and to their communities. When the government does wrong, we have a moral responsibility to admit it. The duty we owe to one another to tell the truth and to protect our fellow citizens from excesses like these is one we can never walk away from. Our government failed in that duty, and it offers an apology to the survivors and their families, and to all the American people who must be able to rely upon the United States to keep its word, to tell the truth, and to do the right thing. Make no mistake, as the committee report says, there are circumstances where compensation is appropriate as a matter of ethics and principle. I am committed to seeing to it that the United States of America lives up to its responsibility. Our greatness is measured not only in how we so frequently do right, but also how we act when we know we've done the wrong thing, how we confront our mistakes, make our apologies, and take action. That's why this morning I signed an executive order instructing every arm and agency of our government that conducts, supports, or regulates research involving human beings to review immediately their procedures in light of the recommendations of this report and the best knowledge and standards available today, and to report back to me by Christmas.